Did you know you can actually request to have your podcast featured within Apple Podcast? And while it's not guaranteed, it's one of the best ways to get free visibility. And in this episode, I'm going to be walking you through how to submit your show, why to submit your show, and some of the best practices for submitting your show to Apple Podcast so you can land that feature. Okay, so why would you want to get featured? Well, it's kind of obvious, dum-dum. If selected, you could get your podcast featured on the Apple Podcast homepage, within one of the browse sections, or within the category for the niche that you're in. So I'm gonna walk you through how to do this. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna put the URL to the submission pages down below. That way you can fill out the form, and you can also see some of the best tips and practices and how to actually do it in a way that Apple's editorial department will be receptive to. And yes, real humans actually review these submission requests. That's my understanding. It's my understanding that it's not like a computer or AI. So you're gonna wanna follow the steps that I'm about to lay out so that you have the best chance of getting selected. Okay, so you're gonna have to fill out this pitch form, which is a little bit of a daunting task, I'm not gonna lie. So let's check it out here. So you're just gonna fill these out. Some of these are standard questions. What is the subject of your request? Why should we feature you? That's gonna be a tough one. You're gonna want to explain how your show maybe has a unique angle that hasn't been covered in other shows, or maybe you have a milestone with like a really popular guest that's on. Maybe you're launching like season 2 of a true crime show, or season 2 of, a podcast that was a hit for season 1. You need something compelling here. Where would you like to be featured? Okay, so you're gonna select here, USA. Content type, that's a show, likely, or you could do an episode or a season or whatever it may be. Let's just show. And I'm just gonna fill this out in like a little bit of a generic way just right now so you can follow along with me. Big guest coming up. Obviously you wouldn't wanna put that, you'd wanna put a real reason. Feature placement. Okay, so you gotta pick a date with at least 2 weeks of lead time. That shouldn't be that that shouldn't be that hard. Let's just say it's launch for season 2. Fill this out, forecasted listeners. You're gonna wanna put your contact information here. Let's say it's in fiction. So the marketing plan, so this is where it's a little bit tricky. While none of this is guaranteed, if you do all this well and to the best of your ability, it's gonna improve your chances. But you wanna talk about is anyone from this show appearing on a big YouTube interview to promote the show? Are you pumping out social media content within your own channels to promote this episode or this new season? Maybe they're a really big guest and they're going on one of the morning news stations or whatever it is. Maybe there's a TV appearance. Obviously that's thinking super big if you have that type of show. Those are probably more likely to get selected, to be honest. Social media accounts, here it is. You're gonna wanna fill this out in a way that's compelling, accurate, definitely accurate, because you don't wanna lie here. And if you don't have any of that stuff, if you don't have any of the big network appearances or the big interviews coming up to promote whatever it is you're promoting, I don't know that works against you. I would imagine it would, because Apple, obviously, they want to build buzz around big shows, big events, big new seasons. But do what you can, because you got to be promoting. So fill this out accurately, but make sure you have some kind of plan for marketing and promotion. Okay, artwork. You're going to want to fill this out to these specs that are here, but what might be a little challenging is the files that you have to submit are layered Photoshop. PSD is a Photoshop file. And so if you work in Canva or something, that's a problem. Find someone that can work with you and turn your artwork into the format that's necessary for Apple. It's because if you get featured, the hero artwork, that's oftentimes the rectangle artwork at the top of the page when you're looking at Apple Podcasts on your phone. So there's different dimensions, and if you follow this the way you're supposed to, if you don't follow it the way you're supposed to, I've read that you don't have to submit artwork, but if you like give them everything they want, that's going to be a lot easier for them to make that decision. And then if they decide to use you, boom, that artwork is already to spec and they can just lay it in the app where they need to. So here are the 4 tips, dude. And the first one, as we mentioned a little bit earlier while we were filling out that form, but you have to have some unique perspective, some unique angles, some big milestone. Here's a couple things they look for: fresh perspectives, unforgettable stories, stimulating conversations. And this is a tip: the best requests have a compelling subject line, engaging synopsis, background on the host. Okay, so this is better. So now you know exactly what to put in these boxes here in this box here of why we should feature you. So here's some tips. Background on the guest, clear description, compelling subject line. Make sure the artwork meets the specs. We had talked about that a little bit. There's more info here with some of the exact specs and what it will look like if it gets featured. So it's a lot. The artwork is a lot. And while they did say that you don't have to have it, I bet you do. And that was tip 2, the eye-catching art. Tip 3, optimize your feed and episode title. Here's some information here, guys. Again, read this, but keep titles brief and focused. Always keep the audience in mind. Apple Podcasts should be part of your marketing plan. Consider the news cycle, world events or local events. And if you have a podcast that sort of is related to that, that might be something to consider here. What happens next? We may contact you if we need more information. If you aren't selected, this is key. Try again in 6 to 8 weeks. It might take you a few times, and you'll learn each time and how to optimize your pitch. So getting featured on Apple Podcasts isn't guaranteed, but taking the time to submit like a polished, thoughtful, and strategic request along with a strategic plan that you have going on in the background for your show, for your involvement, for your marketing, that's going to get you a real shot at landing one of these featured placements. Plus, just going through this is going to help you improve your branding, help you to think about your podcast with like a more marketing mindset, how you're kind of handling all that. And if you don't get accepted, try again in 6 to 8 weeks. And if nothing else, I think it's just going to get you to think about your podcast in a different way, and help you to start pitching and start to understand like what people are looking for. And it's a great stepping stone on your journey towards podcast success. So this episode helped you guys. Share it with another podcaster, YouTuber. Check it out. Watch the screen share. Thank you for listening. To get more information about the show, head on over to thepodcasthaven.com. The Podcast Haven is the production company that I own that produces Clipped. That's thepodcasthaven.com. And you can check out the show as well as some of our other offerings. Keep listening, keep engaging, keep creating. I'm out.